Antoinette Norris Woodson. Let me tell you a little bit about Antoinette. Antoinette is an instructional designer with 20 plus years of experience creating inclusive, scenario-based micro-learning for corporate, healthcare, and workforce audiences. She integrates AI to enhance accessibility and scale, delivering learner-centered solutions that support diverse teams and high-stakes compliance needs. Antoinette and I were talking before this session started, and she let me know she typically speaks to an academic audience. So her foray into this more, I guess, corporate world, this is new. And so let's give a generous welcome to Antoinette, and I'll let her get started and hide myself from the screen. All right, Antoinette, it's all yours.
Oh, you don't have to hide, Luis. I love seeing a friendly face. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. I was so afraid because it's Monday that no one would show up. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. So before we dive in, I want to get the dust off your brain because it is Monday. And I want you to see how many of these phrases from instructional design, AI, learning and development that you can figure out. And I am going to give you 1 minute, and I want you to see how many of those you can determine in a minute. And go ahead and put the number and what you think the phrase is in the chat.
That's pretty amazing, Antoinette. Can you just give me a hint on one, just so that I have an example of how?
Okay, I'll give you a hint one. The very first one is artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Okay, I'll let everybody get to it.
Don't feel bad. It took me a long time to figure that one out. Give you about 15 more seconds. Ooh, we have some really intelligent people. I'm looking at these guesses in the chat. They're pretty good. Nice, nice. 5, 4, get that last guess in. 3, 2, 1, and done. Oh, wow. So we've got digital toolbox, audio learning. So those are some of the guesses, world travel. So let's take a look at what our solutions are. So the first one, artificial intelligence, I gave you that one. Number 2, accessibility. Number 3, AI tools. Number 4, online learning. Number 5, data analysis. Number 6, coffee. Number 7 is music. Number 8 is food. Number 9 is travel. And number 10 is weather. I was in a webinar when the presenter gave us several of these, and we had a lot of chat discussion regarding it. Emojis are wonderful, aren't they? All right. So let's dive into our topic for today. So as Luis has already introduced, I'm Antoinette Norris Woodson. My information is on the slide. If you would like to connect, please do so with me on LinkedIn. There is a link on the slide to an 8-second intro video using one of my favorite AI tools, Hey Jen. And if you'd like to have a coffee chat, please feel free to click on my calendar link so we can talk more about AI in instructional design.
Hey, Antoinette, just real quick, I want to mention
Yes.
those links aren't going to work in this interface, like they're not live. So maybe
Okay.
you could send me those links later and I can share them with everybody.
Okay, no problem. I can definitely do that.
Great, thanks.
All right. All right, so today we're going to talk about 4 things in particular. All right, we're going to talk about why accessibility matters to us as instructional designers and learning development content writers, and wherever you are in the learning and development world. We're going to talk about, of course, some AI tools that are going to help us reach more learners, and have a plan on how we can continually use those tools to continually reach more learners so that we can continue to change the world through the design, the trainings and the lessons and the compliance, all of those things that we have to create as instructional designers so that we can continue to empower the world with knowledge with the things that we design. So here is the problem. And so before we go into things, I want to talk about disability, and I want to talk about people who are disabled, and talk about the people who are our learners. Okay, so there's over 1 billion people globally that report having a disability. Okay, so that's nearly 1 in 8, or 1 in 8 people in the world, and for the US, 1 in 10, thereabouts. Okay, that's an estimate, right? And that's the working age adults that are not institutionalized. Okay, and by working age adults, I mean the ages 18 to 64. Okay, those are the people that were included in this study. Okay, and this data comes from several different entities, the CDC being one of them. Have you noticed that if you were looking for a position, you noticed the new forms where they ask you to complete the optional data? That is one of the sources that they use to help create these types of statistics. Okay. But one thing that we as instructional designers are guilty of is using accessibility and inclusion as an afterthought. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to dive into some AI tools that are going to help us address the accessibility and inclusion. So first, we need to know the difference. And I have to admit that I did not really know the difference until I had a child that had a condition where I had to learn the difference. Okay, so a disability, a person has a disability, then it's something permanent. Okay, just like the pictures depict. Okay, so disability describes a condition of the body or the mind that makes it more difficult for an individual with that condition to do certain things or certain activities in the world around them. Okay. So, but being disabled, on the other hand, is circumstantial. Okay. So someone in a wheelchair that individual has a disability, but someone who has on a cast is disabled. Okay. That's the difference. And I can tell you for most of my adult life, I had those backwards. I did not realize the difference. Okay. So another way to think of it is that a disability is a trait, but being disabled is a state, and it's dynamic. That's one way of thinking of it. So I want you to keep that in your mind as we continue to talk about inclusion and accessibility. Okay. And the reason I want you to keep those in mind is because they're related to these 3 things. So IDL is inclusive design, UDL is universal design, and then we have accessibility design. Okay. So I have to admit that coming out of the world of education, that I thought in instructional design that if I use the UDL framework that I would be okay and I would meet all of my learners. That is not true. Okay, it's not true. So inclusive design, it focuses on reducing the barriers for engagement for everyone, okay? For everyone, hence the name inclusive, because we're trying to include everyone, okay? Universal design is a framework developed by CAST, and it's about designing learning experiences that are accessible and effective for all learners. So it's a framework to help you design the learning. Whereas accessibility focuses on making the content and the environment usable by removing as many barriers as possible to allow individuals with disabilities to access that information. Okay, so basically, accessibility is the foundation for both UDL and IDL. Okay, it's the basis for it's the foundation for that particular aspect of both. The bottom line is we need to make sure that when we're designing, that we are not unintentionally excluding learners. If you have read any of the items that I've posted on LinkedIn, one of them was about a release that Articulate just made for Storyline and Rise to include more features to help designers make their learning more accessible for more learners. And in the last project that I created, I thought I was doing so well and making sure that I met all of the criteria so that I could reach as many learners as possible. But when I ran it through the Storyline checker, there were several things that I had missed. So in this case, AI helped me to make my learning more accessible to more learners by the features that they added to that particular platform. Now, the other reason that we need to make sure that we're making our learning accessible is because it's the law, right? So there's been a lot of things happening in our country in the last 6 months with the new administration and a lot of different legislations that have come about. But most of us, if not all of us, our company does business globally in one way or another. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because the EU Accessibility Act went into full effect on June 28th of this year. So if your particular company does any type of business in Europe, then you are required by law to make sure that whatever you create is accessible to all learners. It cannot be an afterthought. It can't be something that you just do for compliance. It has to be something that is built into the process so that, again, when we take all this time to create all of this learning, and you should be proud of it, I know I am, right? So you want to make sure that as many people as possible have access to it. And in order for that to happen, we need to think about it from the beginning, and we need to incorporate it in our process as we're designing. And as we're doing that and using those AI tools to help us design our learning to reach more learners, we need to be aware of the risks. So I was a germaphobe and paranoid about online information of mine and my children before it became a thing, or so mainstream for so many people to buy so many different tools that protect them, and the VPNs and all of those things. I was looking for those things before it became popular, right? Because I wanted to protect my children and I wanted to protect myself, right? So as we're going about trying these tools, because I'm about to put you to work, right? As we're trying these tools, I want to make sure that you're aware of the risks. And some of these tools you may already be using and you may not be aware of the risks. So I want to make sure we talk about it, okay? So Articulate and Adobe Captivate have very low risk because they're in a licensed environment, and There's no AI training, and the company controls the storage, right? So the risk is very low, right? But let's take a look at some of these other tools that we may use on a daily or weekly basis that we may not have thought about the risk to the data and the input that we're using on these different platforms, right? So moderate risk, as you can see in the chart, we've got Canva, Figma, Miro, Google Slides, and Microsoft 360 Online, okay? And why is it a medium risk? It is because they're cloud stored, right? So that makes them a medium risk. But when we talk about high risk, we're talking about things like the public ChatGPT, right? Any type of image generators, okay? Which we're going to talk about in a moment, even more. These things can log and retain the information that you input because it's trained on it, right? And so you have no contractual protection because there's so many different free items out there, right? When you have the paid versions of AI tools like ChatGPT or Lemon Slice, those offer more control, but still it's in the process of it processes your data externally, which gives it a more medium risk. Okay. So I want you to take that in and maybe take a screenshot so that you can remember when you're using some of the tools that we're about to explore, which ones have high, medium, and low risk. Okay. I have paid versions to several of the tools that are in the chart because I'm an AI enthusiast. I love it. It helps streamline my workflow. It's great. And anybody who knows me knows that I love AI. All right, so let's get to work. The first thing I want you to do is to open a new window, go to your favorite browser, find an image that you like. Could be a puppy dog, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, somebody running, could be something scenic, waterfall, anything you like. Could be a picture of your children that you have on your computer, a picture of your pet that you have at home, picture of your spouse, whatever. I want you to find a tool. And then I want you to go to alttext.ai. Okay, go to alttext.ai. You don't need to log in or anything. It will let you try it. So remember what we talked about risk. You may not want to put a family member in there. So please put that picture in and then see what the alternative text generator generates. So now, if you will, in the chat, tell me what type of picture you uploaded and what the alternate text was for that particular image. Were you surprised by it? Was it longer than you expected? The one thing that I learned when I did this exercise with some other instructional designers, when we were just tackling and playing around with some AI tools, is that alternate text isn't just copy and pasting what is on the screen into the alternate text box. It's way more than that. You have to tell the person that may be visually impaired what the item is, where it is on the screen. And then there's the choice of, do I describe it from left to right or from top to bottom, right? There's way more detail involved. And that is why having such a tool like alternative text AI is so useful for us as designers because it helps us better communicate with our users that may be visually impaired. And it may not even be that they're visually impaired. It could be that someone is on a device where they have a cracked screen and they can't really tell what the image is. Well, they can click on it, look at the alternative text, and be able to still understand what it is on the screen so that they can still participate in whatever the activity or the webinar is. Yes, I love that, Karen. The great thing about alternative text generation is that it gives a base description that is easy to and deepens the experience. And isn't that what we want to do? We want to deepen the experience for our learners. And this is one AI tool that can help us do that, right? I was playing around with it as I was creating this presentation. I was having quite a bit of fun. So you might want to bookmark that if you were unfamiliar with it before, because now that AI tool can help you reach more humans. That is one way that AI can help us humanize our learning as we go through our instructional design process. Now, this just goes back to what I was talking about before, and I'm giving you some more tools, okay? So in this chart, these are AI video tools, okay? There's no one size fits all. This chart is to help you figure out what matters most to you. What is it that you need to use most to help you create and design better learning for your users, right? Okay. So if you want to turn a photo into a talking avatar, then maybe you can represent that, maybe that you can represent a real learner or a subject matter expert using Hey Jen, right? So this is a somber example, but this is the power of some of these tools. My niece died in June. She was 12 years old. Very tragic, very devastating. She was my namesake. My brother and his wife are devastated naturally, right? But what I could do for them to help give them some closure, I took a picture of my niece and created a goodbye message to my brother and his wife using Hey Jen and some of the most funny, she was such a funny kid, the funniest phrases and corny jokes that she loved to tell, and they loved it. It still makes me tear up when I think about it. They loved it. That is the power of some of these AI tools that you can use to reach people, okay? To get an emotional connection when you're creating those scenarios, even though they're for work, you know, even though they're for something in their workflow that may need improving or may be changing, it's still a powerful tool that you can use to help make them better at what they do. So this chart is giving you key features, whether you need an image to a video, text to a video, multiple avatars. And I have to tell you, my new favorite AI tool is Lemon Slice. I used it in my last project because Lemon Slice I found so far, because they're all competing fearfully. So far, it is the one where I can put multiple avatars on a screen that look human, that can set up a work scenario so that it's more natural, like in the work state. So if I took some pictures in the work environment and then uploaded those and used that as my background, I can have multiple avatars on the screen in a real work situation with actual dialogue that would actually happen on the job to make that training more realistic for my user. Okay. So we know that in Storyline, you have where you can put the characters on there, and you can have the call out session, the call out buttons to simulate a conversation. But with these AI tools, you can actually make those avatars have the conversation so that it's more realistic and it looks more like what the work environment is going to be like for the user as they're going through their trainings. Okay. So now I want you to choose one. First, determine what it is that you need most by looking at this chart. And on the next slide, I want you to choose the one here. And then on the next slide, I have some pre-made prompts for you to use to explore, or of course, you can always use your own. But sometimes, it's Monday. You may not feel like thinking that deeply, or you may not want to open a project that you're working on right now. So if that's the case, there you are. I provided some prompts for you. So you can go to any of those tools, choose the correct prompt, and Luis, since the links on the screen aren't working, do you think you can pop the links into the chat for them, please? Thank you. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to play because I want you to see the power. So what is this? Oh, okay. I'm so sorry to hear that, Jane. She says that the AI that isn't paid is blocked at her job. And that's understandable. They're taking those extra security measures. But please take a screenshot, email it to yourself so that after work or on your own personal device, you can go ahead and explore those. Now, for those of you who aren't able to actually go to the tool, see if you can, if YouTube isn't blocked, you can still go to YouTube and look at a video of how to construct whichever tool that you chose. So if you chose Hey Jen and you want to do image to video, then you can watch the how-to video on YouTube on how to do that so that you're still getting something out of the exercise. Thank you, Luis. Remember, if you cannot think of anything to put in, you are more than welcome to use one of the suggested prompts on the screen. So while you're playing, I just answered a question that was in the chat about the alternative text. And the question was, should an alternative text be as simple as possible? Well, I agree with you. I thought that was the case until I learned about the WCAG. And there is a structure to how we are to describe text on a screen and images and videos within slides, images, and on websites. And so that structure is what Articulate, Microsoft, and all of the other big companies are using to embed the accessibility features in their platforms. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, please let me know in the chat or ask me a follow-up and I will gladly address it. Okay. So the chat got quiet, so I think that we're having fun with our tools. So now I would like for you to share your experience. So you may either go to the link, if you don't mind putting that in the chat for me, please, Luis. You can also use your phone to scan the QR code. Please tell us which tool you explored and what you did with that tool. The tool you explored and what you did with that tool. Now I have the Padlet opened up on my phone so that I can keep track. And the Padlet will also be available after the session so that you can go back and read what some of the others have put about tools. So you may want to investigate something new based on something someone else said.
Just a quick thing about the Padlet. It took me a little bit on the desktop anyway, to figure out what you're supposed to do. But you click, there is a plus sign in the bottom right of the screen
Yes.
that allows you to place something on there. So just in case anybody's looking for that, that's on the bottom right of the screen.
Thank you, Luis. I
Sure.
did forget to say that. Thank you. Okay. Almost done. Keep that window open. I'm going to forge ahead so I can respect our time so we can finish on time. Right. So when we bring all of these things together, we bring them all together. Now we have a simple framework on how AI can help us streamline accessibility across our design flow, okay? And we don't have to compromise our standards or skip the human touch, okay? So when we start with our draft of our content, AI can help us quickly generate captions, image descriptions, or placeholders. One of my other favorite tools for creating presentation slides, in case you're not familiar with it, is Gamma, which you can upload, redesign presentations that you already have by uploading them to Gamma, or you can do text to presentation. You can give it an outline of the presentation that you would like to make, and it will create the slides in as much detail as you like, actually. It also designs websites. So if you're looking to, let's say, upscale your portfolio website, you can upload some of the items that you have right now in your portfolio into Gamma and change it up and upscale it, and then re-upload it to your site or your Google site or GoDaddy site or wherever it is that you're housing your portfolio. Okay. One of the things that is super duper important, because as instructional designers, we always have a deadline, right? And so often the accessibility features that are needed for our learning are always put at the end. But like I've been saying continually, your accessibility has to be part of the workflow. It needs to be in the storyboard. It needs to be in that design document. It's not an afterthought. It's part of the learning process. And so we need to check early. We need to check often and get as many people on your team on board as possible, because it's a lot for one person, which is why we have so many AI tools to help us. You may be the only instructional designer that is on your team. However, guaranteed there is someone who has been affected by a disability or a disabled person in their environment. Now, you can't go around asking, but you can observe, right? And for example, just someone with glasses like myself and looking at the screen, and you know how now you can get the overlays for your computer screen, or you can get those filters put on your glasses to protect your eyes and things. But then there's also the idea of having larger text or the ability to enlarge the text. All of those things are part of that accessibility process, because we're trying to reach as many humans as we can with what we design. Okay, so those things need to be taken into consideration as we design, not after we design. Okay. One of the things that you'll see asked more often, especially in job descriptions, is someone who knows how to create scenario-based learning. And you may not be someone who's really familiar with that before. You may have been creating static slides or slides with bells and whistles that has great information, but there was no real interaction and no comparison to the real workflow for the company or department for whomever you were creating the training. So using the AI tools like Synthesia, Lemon Slice, Colossine, and Manus, all of those can help you create those scenario-based situations to embed in the training to make it more realistic, to have measurable, and I mean measurable, effect on the learner's workflow, which is what the company wants. If they're asking you to create something, then they want a behavior change somehow, right? And so what better way to exemplify that than by showing the learner what that looks like using some of the AI video tools. So now they have something to compare what they go out on the floor to do, or into the office to do, or wherever they go to do whatever they do. Now they have something in mind to compare it to because they have a realistic example, right? That is the power of how AI can help us enhance what we do. Okay. So now this is how important this is. If you're a PowerPoint user, you know that Microsoft has embedded, well, they have really put it on steroids, right? Some people say Articulate Storyline is PowerPoint on steroids, but Microsoft has really upped their game with PowerPoint to help us out as designers, right? The accessibility checker that they have in PowerPoint is awesome. And it does check for quite a bit, and it checks for the language that is necessary for screen readers, which I really appreciate now that I'm getting older and my eyes are getting worse. Right? So, and I have a couple of friends who are younger than me who are having vision issues because of medical problems. And now they're having to learn how to navigate these tools to help with the screen readers and the alternate text. And watching them as they work on their laptops has taught me so much as an instructional designer. And I feel really bad that at the beginning of my career that I didn't understand the importance of embedding all of the accessibility and inclusion features and from the beginning, because you don't know what you don't know. And until something in your environment changes, you won't learn it. So hopefully today, your environment has been tweaked a little bit and you've learned a few things so that you can make your learning more accessible in the future. But this is one of those, right? So the Microsoft Accessibility Checker, you can go online for that. And you can also use the Wave web accessibility. So you can check the websites to see how accessible they are. So what can you do this week? What can you do this week, right? I would like for you to please take this challenge. I would like for you to choose a project that you're working on. It could be a course, a deck, a page, and run an AI accessibility scan using Wave or Stark. Stark is another accessibility checker, okay? Then I would like for you to, if possible, schedule a peer review to validate what the tool catches, right? So human judgment is still the key and is always going to be the missing puzzle, right? Even when you use the alternative text AI, there were probably some things that still needed to be edited or maybe tweaked a bit, because AI only gets us 70 to 80% of the way. It still makes mistakes. We cannot rely on it 100% of the time. We still have to use our instructional design judgment to make sure that we are adapting and changing and revising in a way that is best for our learner. We never depend on AI 100%, okay? We are still the determining factor as humans, right? So I would like for you to please try to add at least one AI accessibility step to your process. And I will get my storyboard and design document that includes the accessibility and inclusion from the beginning and share that with Luis so that he can share that out in case you need one. And bookmark a tool that you tried today, or all of them if you tried all of them. And then start small with something that is going to not just use the tool for the sake of using the tool, but use the tool to enhance the learning experience. That's what's important. We don't just create text, picture, image to video using HeyGen or Synthesia just because we think it's cool. It is, but if it's not enhancing the learning, then it doesn't have a place in the training, okay? We want to make sure whatever we do is enhancing the learning experience for the user, okay? All right. So lastly, and I'm done, we're wrapping it all up. I just want to leave you with this, that AI tools can absolutely streamline your process. Always make sure that you verify your AI output that is generated, because the human factor is still important. We still have to check the outputs. AI is not perfect. And hopefully you're walking away with 2 or 3 things that you can apply this week, whether it's scanning a course, using the web checker, whether it's going to the WCAG website for the color contrast to make sure it meets accessibility standards. Anything that I shared today that will help you with an action item, I think would be wonderful. So if you got something and you don't mind sharing, and put in the chat one thing that you can try this week that to help your instructional design workflow and help you become a better designer for our human learners, I would appreciate it. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, like I said before, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or we can do a coffee chat if you want to schedule a time on my calendar. And I am done. Thank you so much for attending.
All right, Antoinette, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all these wonderful resources. This is great. I can tell you that I'm not working today. I'm off today, but tomorrow when I clock in, I'm going to share the alttext.ai site with my team for sure, because we definitely can use that in our messaging and, and whenever we're building anything that has images and being able to apply those, some better, I think, alt text descriptions is totally helpful. So thank you for sharing that one.
Oh, glad. I'm glad you found it useful.
Yeah. All right. So thanks again, everybody. We do have another session coming up in just over an hour. The next one's with Sarah Syed, who has spoken with TLDC in the past, and it's absolutely fantastic. So I hope you come back for that one. And just a reminder, if you want to stay in touch or keep in the know with TLDC, here is a link to the website. And then another thing that would be really, really helpful, and I always forget to do this, is follow TLDC on LinkedIn. Let's see if this works for me. Oops. No. Let me grab this real quick. LinkedIn. TLDC. Oh no. It's supposed to work. My LinkedIn profile got hacked a few months ago, and I had like thousands and thousands of TLDC followers on LinkedIn, but then that all disappeared when it got hacked. So I'm trying to get that going again so that folks can follow what we're doing over here. Oops, did that work? Oh no, it didn't work. Sorry. One more time.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, the thing that's funny is that when you try to when I try to link it in LinkedIn, it always goes to the admin dashboard, so I never get the actual link. All right, there it is. So please follow over there. And yeah, with that, Antoinette, thanks again. Thanks so much for being a part of the event and sharing with us. Would love to see you present again if you ever have time or interest. And
having me.
yeah.